Hey y'all, it's Austin, back here to walk you guys through the needle bearing removal and reinstallation of the ECGS bushing. This replaces the stock needle bearing that can go bad and cause a vibration between 30 and 50 miles per hour when you do lift the front end of your Tacoma. If you've got that vibration and you put it into four-wheel drive and the vibration disappears, then this needle bearing does need to be replaced. But have no fear, TOD is here to walk you through it. We're going to start here with the truck on a level surface. Go ahead and get the left front side jacked up and set on a jack stand safely. Go ahead and remove your 6 lug nuts and then the wheel. Remove this 12mm nut holding the brake line onto the spindle. If you still have the sway bar, remove the end link from the spindle as well. And remove the 10mm bolt holding the ABS line onto the top of the upper control arm. Remove the castle nut cotter pin, and then use a 19mm to remove the castle nut itself, but don't take it off all the way. Then go ahead and hit that flat spot with a hammer to release the upper control arm. Jump down to the outer tie rod. There's a cotter pin down there. Go ahead and spend 16 business years getting it out like I did here. Take your 19mm, go ahead and zip off the castle nut, and we're gonna play persuasion. Beat the outer tie rod until it releases from the spindle. Go ahead and put your castle nut back on so you don't lose it. All right, so now we're pulling this dust boot cap off of the spindle. Obviously you can see I live in Ohio. There's quite a bit of crusties on here. This took quite a bit of time here. Once you get your dust cap off, we're gonna jump down to the lower ball joint, 2 19mm, remove those from the spindle. And then one last cotter pin, I promise is the last one to fight with. So go ahead and get this one out. And then remove the blue cap. Now take your 35mm to remove it from the axle. I'm gonna thread this nut back on and hit it with the hammer to protect the threads, but we wanna release it from the spindle. You can see it's kind of pushing itself back, so we've got that released. Now we're gonna wrangle the spindle and make sure that we're not pulling too much tension on the ABS wire and the brake line. So get the spindle secured up here, that way it doesn't wanna tip or pull on those. Gonna give one last tap to the CV, kind of push, weasel, pull. Careful of that brake line. I did put a little bit of tension on here, but you got to get it up, and I pushed the spindle forward to get it out of the way for the CV to come out. I kind of picked up the spindle and set it on the lower control arm, but much farther forward than it normally would sit. Go to the skid plate. I have an RCI skid plate, so I actually have 6 bolts. If you have the OEM, it should just be 4 of the 17mm to drop it. Okay, so now we get into the real pain. You can see here I'm taking a flathead and I'm beating on those flat tabs of the CV away from the front diff. This probably took me upwards of 15 to 20 minutes. Obviously this is super sped up here. I tried a flathead, pry bars, all sorts of tools. Eventually I grabbed a piece of flat bar steel I had laying around and hit that with my sledgehammer. You can see it's starting to come out, it's starting to push out. Once it starts going, it's a lot easier. And then once you start seeing diff fluid drop, you know it's out. That's the piece of flat bar I used. So don't be like me and don't pull on the shaft. Grab the end here and release. And then slide your CV out. Careful of those boots. Here I'm shoving a towel into the front diff. That way, if we lose a needle or the installation tool falls in there, it's not going into the differential. Drop your installation tool backing. And then go ahead and slide that behind the factory needle bearing. Now grab your threaded rod from the installation tool and we're going to screw that into the pulling tool that's in the front diff currently. I threaded it all the way until it stopped and you can kind of see it start to spin within the diff. Then grab the piece of flat bar that they send, throw the 19mm nut onto the end, thread that on. Now take your 19mm open-ended wrench, ideally a ratcheting one so you don't have to keep popping it on and off. Just go ahead and crank that down until you start seeing the shaft pull out, and you can kind of see when you're down in there that the needle bearing is getting yanked out. Here she is, she popped out. And there's your needle bearing, still on the tool. Go ahead and grab that towel out before we forget about it. And then grab your installation tool for the ECGS bushing as well. I put some gear oil on here to help try to slide it in a little bit easier. That way it's all looped up and ready to go. Another pain point is getting this in straight. It is a cylinder, so you would think it would slide in really easily, but you can see right there it's off to the side. I just kind of grab, push it, it'll pop out. Keep trying to tap it in. You'll know when it's going in straight. Eventually it'll start going. Here, I grab my bigger hammer, you can see it start to go in. And then finally, once it's completely seated, the sound will change as you're hitting the front diff. Go ahead and grab some brake clean, clean off your axle seal, clean out any dirt. Go ahead and slide our CV back in. I'm gonna align the spline, so kind of give it a spin as you're pushing it in. Okay, so it's in the splines now. Now we're gonna grab the axle nut itself, slide that on so we protect the threads as we're hammering this in. Grab your big hammer, pop it back in, watch to the right, you can see it start to slide in. You'll know when it bottoms out. I've got a little video here of it spinning, as well as what it looks like underneath. So you can see that seal around the edge is completely seated almost against the front diff. So now we're gonna play I Wish I Had 3 Hands. So we're gonna push the spindle out, push the CV in, the opposite of what we did earlier, get it into the splines, make sure they line up. And once you kind of get it pushed in, you'll see that the CV will come through. I'm gonna reattach our spindle to the lower control arm, the 2 19mm bolts that we took off. I grab and spin these as I'm kind of yanking on the spindle, and it helps set them in. Obviously start these by hand. These can be cross-threaded super easily. Undo our castle nut from our outer tie rod, pop that back in. I'm gonna start the castle nut. Spindle secured, go ahead and remove your strap. Reinstall your axle nut and torque it to 173 foot-pounds. Throw your blue cap back on, as well as reinstall the cotter pin. Bend the outside up and around. Doesn't need to be pretty, it just holds the nut on. I'm adding some anti-seize because obviously we fought taking off the dust cap. We're gonna put the dust cap back on, light hammer taps until she's seated. 19mm castle nut going back up on top of the upper control arm, and snug this down and torque it to 81 foot-pounds. Go ahead and put the jack underneath the outer tie rod to help stabilize it. Get this outer tie rod castle nut torqued to 67 foot-pounds, and then get your cotter pin back in, bend it around like we did for the axle nut. Almost forgot about our upper control arm castle nut cotter pin. Torque these to 118 foot-pounds at the bottom. Go ahead and slide our ABS line back on to the upper control arm with the 10mm. Reinstall the brake line support bracket as well as the sway bar end link if you have it. Now's a great time to do a front diff fluid change if you haven't already. So I just went ahead and drained all my fluid. If you didn't, just top off the fluid and make sure it weeps out the fill hole. Grab your fill plug and a fresh crush washer, and then go ahead and torque it to 29 foot-pounds. Now it's time for a bath. So we're gonna clean the front diff, try to get as much of the diff fluid off as we can. That way we can test to see if we have any leaks later on. Just get in there with a rag, kind of clean it all up, make it look nice and pretty. I got some grease from the CV onto the brake rotor when I was manipulating the spindle, so go ahead and wipe that off. Go ahead and put your wheel back on. All 6 of your lug nuts. And then go ahead and drop the truck on the ground, torque them to 83 foot-pounds. You're good to go. I hope this was helpful to you guys. Try to cut out as much of the slack as I could. Obviously this is going to take a lot longer than 9 minutes, but obviously you can see the steps here and there's not any extra filler. So that's how we do it here at TOD. If you're new here, thanks for joining us. Join the Discord, win some free stuff, chat with Tyler and I. Until next time, guys, thanks so much for watching. Take care.